It's not unfair to say we live in the age of the narcissist, and we use the word as a weapon, and we hurl it at our ex-lovers, our difficult bosses, selfie-obsessed culture around us. And to us, a narcissist is a villain, and they are the embodiment of vanity, of arrogance, of excessive self-love. But if you actually return to the source of the word, if you open Ovid's metamorphosis, you realize that we have indicted the person wrongly. Narcissus wasn't the god of vanity, he was the victim of numbness. Vanity is a side effect. To understand this, we must look at the word itself. Narcissist does not actually share any root with the word arrogance. It shares a root with narcotic. It comes from the Greek narke, which means stupor, numbness, paralysis. The boy staring at the pool wasn't checking himself out because he thought he was beautiful. He was in a catatonic trance. He was dissociated. He was a human being so disconnected from his own interiority that when he saw his own reflection, he didn't even recognize it as himself. He thought it was a stranger. The myth isn't about the excess of self-love, it's about the absolute absence of self. So how does a human being become so empty? And to answer this, we have to look at his parents. We have to look at the genealogy of the wound. Narcissus wasn't born of a happy union. He was born of a crime. His father, Cephissus, a river god. His mother was Liriope, a water nymph. And the myth tells us that Cephissus did not woo her. He was a river. He encircled her with his winding streams and trapped her in his currents and basically ravished her. And this is our first psychological key, enmeshment. Narcissus wasn't born from a father who was embracing, but one who had no boundaries. Everything that he touched was encircled. And this is the enmeshment. The parent drowns the child in their own identity. A river parent doesn't allow the child to have a separate shore. They create this liquid, amorphous child, someone who flows wherever the parent flows, who feels whatever the parent feels. Narcissus grew up in a state of entanglement. He never learned where he ended and his father began. He was fluid and formless. And then there's his mother, Liriope. Now, she wasn't just a victim. She became the architect of the mask, because after giving birth to this beautiful child, she was consumed by anxiety, and she went to see the blind seer. Interesting, they're always blind. Narcissus, and asked a specific question: will he live a long life? Notice the question. She didn't ask if he would be happy. She asked if he would survive. She was obsessed with his duration, not his depth. And Narcissus gave the famous haunting answer: he will live if he never knows himself. And this is the curse of the narcissistic family. The child is taught that self-knowledge is dangerous. To look inside is to die, to face the trauma of the river. So to survive, the child must look outside. And this explains why Narcissus ended up at the pool. He wasn't vanity-struck. He was safety-seeking. He'd been hollowed out by his father's enmeshment, this raging river, and his mother's anxiety. He had no self inside, so he tried to find a self outside. He fell in love with the reflection because it looked safe. The pool was calm. It didn't try and crash over him or drown him like his father did. It was the ultimate false self, perfect, still, and compliant. But here lies the cruel irony of his life. Water actually kind of killed him. It wasn't the violence of the river, but the pool of stagnation. He exchanged the chaos of his father for the coma of his own image. He didn't drown by force, he drowned by fixation. He stared at the water until he wasted away, until the numbness, the narke, finally took him completely. He died of thirst while staring at the water because he dared not drink and ripple the image. Now, the modern world thinks the story ends there, but the ancients knew better. The gods didn't punish Narcissus. They didn't send him to Tartarus for being a jerk. They immortalized him. They turned him into the Narcissus flower, the daffodil. So in the ancient Eleusinian mysteries, this flower was sacred to Persephone. It was the symbol of the threshold. It grew between the edge, between the underworld and the living. This is the redemption of the narcissist. Narcissus becomes a guardian of the boundary. He represents the soul that gets trapped in the illusion, the reflection, but eventually blooms into something new. He is the symbol of sublimation, turning the pain of paralysis into the beauty of form. Thanks for watching.